the Latina Leadership Podcast, the podcast made for Latinas by Latinas, with Angelica Cázares, Carolina Arenas, Diana Ruby, Jacqueline Gomez, and Sonia Ramirez. Get comfortable, amiga, and enjoy the conversations.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Latina Leadership Podcast. I am your co-host, Jacqueline Gomez, joined by my other co-host, Sonia Ramirez. On today's special episode, we have community advocate and business entrepreneur, Claudia Ortega-Hogue. She is the president of the League of Women Voters Houston and founder and CEO of Global Communities Houston. Claudia, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you so much, Jacqueline and Sonia, for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I am looking forward to have a dialogue and a conversation and learn from both of you.
Claudia, we just wanted to start, by talking about your upbringing, how you grew up, where you were born, how did your upbringing, influence your career today? So I guess just going into your upbringing, starting from, when you were born, let's talk about that.
Wonderful. Yes. Great question. So basically, I always call myself, I'm like 1.5 generation, but really I think I'm a first generation. I was born in Laredo, Texas, and I was raised in Tepic, Nayarit, Mexico, till I was 18 years old. So I grew up in Mexico and by the beach, and when I graduated from high school, I said to myself, I remember telling my mom, I need to learn English as a second language. I'm a U.S. citizen and I have to learn. So funny enough, there was a program. My dad worked in the government at the time in Mexico, and somehow he got connected with the school for English as a second language in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at University Language Institute. So there you go. After I finished from Colegio Cristobal Colón Preparatoria High School, I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. My parents drove me all the way from Tepic, Nayarit, Mexico. We drove through all the cities and the states, and then we came until they dropped me off. I remember that very clearly back in 1993. Ya soy un poquito grande, but I had the opportunity to really be in a really good school, as I mentioned, University Language Institute, and at the time, it was hosted, or they had space out of the university called Oral Roberts University. So what they did, they will get all the students that were coming in to learn English. They will place them in the dorms and have them work, kind of like if they were part of the university. And that was like an emerging type of language program. I remember one of my best friends, Becky, she was my roommate. She was in the tennis team. She didn't speak Spanish. I didn't speak English, maybe just the basic, just what you learn in school. And we were roommates. We were friends best friends forever still, and so maid of honor. But I think that was the way that they really brought students into, learning the language. So anyway, when I was there, then I finished my school, English as second language. And then I decided, well, I guess I go back to Mexico and go to college. And my mom is like, no, mijita, you're going to stay and, stay in Tulsa, because I think you have an opportunity as a U.S. citizen to apply for scholarships and financial aid at the time. And I think at the time in Mexico, the economy went pretty bad. And I was, thanks to my mom and my guerrera to encourage me to apply to ORU, I did apply. And I was able to pass my TOEFL. I don't know if you ever heard of the exam. TOEFL exam is for English for students that are learning English. And I finally passed, and I did it. And I graduated from there with a international business degree in a minor in Spanish. But that really, I think that was the beginning of my journey. Just because I was able, it was a little bit confusing at the time because I had the opportunity as a U.S. citizen to have all these wonderful benefits, right, of opportunity and continue on my education. But I also had my background where I, grew up in Mexico, didn't speak the language. I understood the immigrant background and the journey and the sacrifice for people to be in this country. And at that time, I was a student, and I remember saying, I really want to work in that office, in the admissions office, helping international students. Somehow I didn't speak the language, but one thing I did have that I was really good was typing. In Mexico, I don't know if I went to a private school with nuns, and they were really strict about us learning how to type. And I was really fast at typing. So I was able to get a job at the mailroom at the admissions office, and then from there I worked my way up. I was really good about typing those labels and addresses, and from there a door opened up to be a student worker for the international student department. Then I was able to also help and assist them with with a lot of the students speaking different languages, Spanish obviously. And when I graduated from the university, they offered me a job full time as an international student coordinator, and that opened up my eyes on the immigration world, on the civic engagement field of what I can do, and I understood what the, like I mentioned earlier, the journey and how to get there. So I worked there for almost 4 years, and I was able to learn everything about a lot about immigration law, the international student visas, passports, working visas, economic hardship, getting students to apply for Social Security. So I think that was what opened up my eyes, where I feel like I could be of service for the community, just sharing of my experiences so other people didn't have to do it the hard way or struggle. So I think that was always the goal. From there, I learned more. I got into working in immigration law firms, learn about immigration law, because I feel like that was a way that I could give back and empower people, because information, it was to empower the community. From there, fast forward, and you tell me if I need to stop, but I'm kind of giving you a journey on that. And then I moved to Houston, Texas. I really am very happy and honored to be in Houston. Houston was very welcoming, very embracing, and it gave me the opportunity to start an internship. Actually, at the time, I was doing a master's in business administration, and that opened up the door to become an intern at, like I mentioned, an office with a member of Congress, and I was able to do the international student. Helping international communities. From there, one thing to another, I met NALEO Educational Fund, National Association of Latino elected and appointed officials. And my job at the time was to help organize in the immigration naturalization field, which that was my background, and help people, engage them, especially within the Latino community, get them to apply for naturalization. Once they apply for naturalization, was to get them to register to vote and get them engaged in the political process. So I'm always thankful for my Naleo Familia. I was there for 12 years. I started as an intern, volunteer, program manager, and worked my way up to state director and Southwest regional director. I really, really enjoyed that position. And I think that from there, I really understood that the importance of connecting and giving back to the community, in the sense of sharing the knowledge on civic engagement, immigration, voter engagement, and some of the things that I learned throughout the journey. I also start at the time, when I was with when I was there with Naleo, about 12 years into the job, I received a call from a member of Congress, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia. Got a job offer from the team, and I served as the district director for District 29 here in Houston. And it really was a wonderful time, in a time where I grew and I learned a lot about government at the city, county, state, federal level. But I really took it as an opportunity to also pour back to the constituents from learning what I have learned in through my community background and really kind of be that hand of helping people. I think the one thing I've learned there is that it's amazing sometimes how a lot of people don't know the rights, don't have the information accessible, and I think thankfully for the journey, and through all of my colleagues that were there, we were able to really help and make a difference in that district that was very serving the underserved communities. And under-resourced communities as well. So, just a little bit, one thing, I really am the person that believes that one door opens another door. And I think the journey just takes you into those areas. And I think as long as we always keep our open mind of giving back and getting yourself involved and sharing what you've learned or sharing your contacts, sharing connections, anything, I think that is what we need as a community to grow and to help people. From there, after
well, you definitely have like a story journey, like you set all the foundations and the bricks for your career, and it's like this career was meant for you because from your accolades and the description of your career, it seems like you've flourished and you're just like the perfect person to be where you are today to help the immigrants and help them sort out, the laws and understand, because they're limited with their language too. They may not understand because they don't speak English, but to have like an advocate as yourself in their corner is a wonderful thing. I did want to ask you, you're the first Latina president of the League of Women Voters. What in 100 years, I think that's what I read. And what does that mean for you? How do you feel about that?
I did have a lot of great mentors and friends throughout the journey with the League of Women Voters of Houston. I remember when I started in 2007 as a volunteer and plugging myself into the naturalization ceremonies. I remember that program. It's still going on, and it's beautiful because basically you're helping naturalize citizens, new Americans that are needing or that need assistance into registering them to vote on site. And that's one way of engaging people into the political process or into civic engagement. And I remember that I said, I can see my mom, my tia, my family into this because it was, I think, one of the areas that I was able to see. I was able to help as a bilingual volunteer and really assist. And I had the background of naturalization and then I also had the voter engagement side. So the league really gave me the opportunity to bring those worlds together and be able to share with the community. I think throughout the journey, I just, jumped into, as I mentioned, I had great champions and friends say, what about joining the board? What about, just getting involved? And I think that's what gave me this first step of why not? Let me just put myself.
I was going to ask,
a board member.
Starting out as a volunteer, to where you are now, I think that's amazing. I want to hear more.
No. And that's really how it honestly started. And I think for me, I still, it is an honor, but it really started as just, let me just start as a volunteer. Let me start as as a board member. What does a board member do? I still wanted to know. And even though I didn't know what that meant at the time, I think that the universe has always brought me let's just put myself into that spot, and then I'm going to learn as I'm going, and I'm going to figure that out. And I think that I was able to serve as their VP of Civic Engagement for a few years, VP of executive roles that I had in there. And then I think when the time came in, I did have to step up for a little bit when I was working for District 29 for the House of Representatives, and I rejoined after that. And I think the opportunity came when it was, I had the journey, I've been there, and the opportunity came into I think you have a ballot. Do you want to put your name on the hat? And I'm like, why not? I can, and I guess for me that was one of the steps. Why not? Let me go for it. And let me give you this. I'm still learning. As of June 1st was my first day as president of the board for the League of Women Voters, and it's been an honor, and it's been quite a learning journey since I'm here. But I'm proud to be there because I feel that it's important for people to also see themselves in those roles, that sí se puede, you know, si tenemos acento, no acento, sí se puede. And I think for me, I want people and the youth to feel that, you know, sometimes we don't know what that means, but you have to even do it, even if you're a little bit nervous, even if you're a little scared. The thing what matters is you just take a leap of faith and do it and believe in yourself. So I think you know, I feel like I'm here, but I feel like I'm here representing a lot of our community, a lot of us there. So I'm excited, and I'm always like, tengo que seguir adelante, Claudia. You know, so I think that's like the attitude that I take, that, you know, just taking one day at a time. So I hope that answer, Sonia, the question.
Yes. Oh, more than answered. It's beautiful. It's
I
so
love that. I love
inspiring.
that.
I mean, that
I like my eyes started getting watery.
yeah.
You're gonna make me cry. Me van a
Right.
hacer llorar
Well,
también.
hey, I wanted to get a little more, talk a little bit more on the topic, and if you can share, what are some of the goals you have for the as president?
Great question. Yes, I think, you know, one we have a lot of different, you know, a lot of goals, but one of it, you know, one of us that, you know, one of the goals that we one of the goals that I have with the League of Women Voters is really diving in more into serving, whether it's, you know, the underserved communities, go into the areas where communities are. We have done amazing work, but giving some of the background and some of the things that I've done in the field, I think I want to be able to bring our team to those areas, to those neighborhoods. Um, I think that we have excellent information, right? Like of educational civic engagement materials. But I think it's just about helping making connections. And I think there's also one of the goals that I have is we have a new executive director, which we're very, very proud that we haven't had an ED in over 12 years, and now we're able to have, you know, growing the staff and a team. And one of my goals is to connect her with everyone that I know in the journey in the field, because I think that connections are powerful, and I think sometimes you need that little push. Or it's funny because sometimes you think, you know, you have all these materials and all this information, but then sometimes you don't know who to talk to in those areas. And I feel like I am here serving the role that serving under, you know, whether it's in nonprofits, in the business community, or whether in the government piece, I'm able to bring something to the table where I can make those connections. I also want to be able to, one of the goals is that, I think expand into different languages. I think right now we just this specific year. I mean, we have had Spanish, obviously, and there's Vietnamese and Chinese and English, but the Spanish, being a Latina y que hablo español, mi primer idioma, we have really dived into being innovative, into how do we get, besides printing, we have this beautiful voter guides where it gives you all this information, all the candidates, political parties, information you need at the polls. But I think for the first time ever, we are doing it into audio. What does that mean? So we're getting Spanish language speakers like myself reading the guide and the audio. No todo mundo puede leer. Not everybody has access to reading it, right? So then they can kind of have an audio and they're listening to. But this is not just me. This is a team behind me, because we have an amazing VP of communications, an amazing team member for social media and marketing, and amazing ED. So it's kind of like my job is like, how I'm the cheerleader. What do we need to be doing? Can we do this? Yes, let's do it. Can we do, the audio, the ebook that is in the libraries, right? And I think I sent you some of the information, but it's like, how do we, just giving that encouragement to get things done, and not be more of someone like blocking the system, if that makes sense. I just want to make sure that I am encouraging, motivating the team to get doing. So I think it's really coming into like new ideas. How do we connect with people and go where people are?
I love that. And we do have the resources that we can share the link at the bottom of the screen, where people can go. And since today is election day, November 7th, people can click on this link and they can go to the voters guide, and which is in English and Spanish, and they can even have access to the audio. I think that's great, actually. And it's a perfect segue into the next question, because I was curious. So, as Latinos, I believe we make up the largest ethnic group in the city of Houston. Um, but of course, those numbers are not always reflected in our voting records, right? We're not, for some reason, I mean, there's so many of us Latinos, but we don't all vote. Why, right? Why do you think that is? And also, with election day upon us, like, what would you say to the Latino community to encourage them to vote?
I think sometimes, some of the, why, I guess that the big questions, right? Like why Latinos are not voting. I think sometimes it's just not knowing where the information is, like that lack of sometimes, and I think that's the goal of like, how do we outreach to the masses, to the groups, for people knowing what, where the information is. I remember doing, working in different like focus groups with Latinos, or like whether it was on the naturalization piece or the voter engagement piece. The often question is like, once you make an invitation to a Latino Hispanic, to a Latino Hispanic voter, they're very interested in participating. Sometimes it's not like, where is the information? ¿Dónde está la información? But you have to reach out to them and make that invitation yourselves. I think often we focus in, I don't want to get so technical, but like super voters, high propensity voters, right? But then there's often people that, especially people that are, that have become naturalized and understand the sacrifices to get to that point. They're just, once you're naturalized, you're like in it, like you want to do next steps. But sometimes, I think this is one of the reasons that I love being part of the Legal Women Voters of Houston team, because I think the civic education information that they provide, such as the voter guides, how do we get that information to the hands of people so then we empower them with information? And I think often resources or funding plays a role into these issues. Like how do we go into like, well, maybe we don't have, we can print them all, but then maybe we can get into audio, maybe we can come, into ebook, like we come creative, because once we have, like I said, like once we have this information and make that invitation, then people do respond and take the step. And I think that I have seen it throughout the journey, just as naturalization people, there's a lot of barriers to becoming a U.S. citizen, but once you explain the process, the education process is the key for everything. And it's like, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's not understanding the voting machine, sometimes it's something that like is the unknown. And for us, it's kind of like breaking those barriers, right? Like how do we simplify it? And that's what I'm so excited, like to partner here with Latina Leadership Podcast and other medios de comunicación, so they can send the information to the people that is not that hard or intimidating. So I often partner with other nonprofit organizations or with the elections team. It's just as simple as like taking them about, have a video of showing how to, use the voting machine, whether it's now it's digital and it's different though. But I think when you break barriers and send the information and providing that education information, I think that's what makes people want to give the next step. So, I think that's I hope that answered some of the questions, but I think, I think it's part of it. And I think also, make it available and I think that's what I go part to, how do we bring this information to the communities of where voters are? Often we wait for voters to come to like, okay, I'm here, you come, you reach out to me. But then if people don't even know who we are or what we have or what information we have, then we are not, they don't know what to ask if we're not giving them that information. So I think for us, it's very important to work with strategic partners that are in the community, that are in the neighborhoods, and partner with people that understand those communities. So then whether we just serve as, hey, we have materials to provide to you, or hey, you are the best ambassador because they trust you, they still don't know who we are. But then it's like working, and I think that's what I mean, like the power of collaboration and getting to the to the communities and voters that need it the most. So we're still growing, we're still learning, and I'm still, but I
Yes.
think that's part of the journey of still figuring, figuring things out as we go.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
And
wonderful.
I have my sticker here. Actually, I'm gonna put it on this shoulder. My I voted sticker, you know. I did
And
early voting. So
and
we should mention
yeah,
that, right? The polls are open from
and one of
7 a.m.
sorry,
to
yes,
7 p.m., right?
correct. And yes,
So
Jacqueline.
vote.
Necesitamos que voten. So, and I think this is also another connection. And I just wanted to add to my previous comment is that,
Mhm.
I think often we're also in the education of like right now, right here in Houston, election day, right? What are the elections? What are we voting for? Like we need to connect of what like, obviously that's why it's important for us to show like the races, whether it's constitutional amendments, propositions, or whether it's like the mayor, studio, the council members and all the different races. But I think it's breaking it down of like if I think to a voter, especially within a Latino voter, is like if you want to have the top issue is safety, or is like infrastructure, and or is
Mhm.
education, or is health, like a health plan, then
Mhm.
connecting that information on how that impacts you every day. And and also like I think that's where also goes into the uh, connecting the dots of like your vote counts, like your voice, your voice is your vote, right? And as you show me that
Right.
sticker, and one another ways that we're hoping to do like now today on election day is that we're going to be we're with the league, we're going to provide a helpline at KPRC channel 2. We're going to be out there. I'm going to be serving in español, ayudando con todas las llamadas de español.
Oh, great.
That's
And I
great.
think having answering questions as simple as like, am I registered to vote? What is my nearest polling location? You know what? So, I went to my polling location and it was closed. Maybe they can call us. Call us back. So really, it's like putting this information out there, and as you're doing it, to disseminate it because you're raising awareness, or where people can
Right.
call for questions as simple as what are the types of documents I need to provide, right? And that's what we will be
Right.
doing. That's what we're going to be, we're doing today.
That's
Wonderful.
great. I mean, it's like the work that you're doing with the League of Women Voters is amazing, and we definitely need, an advocate as yourself to help the community to bring those numbers up, and that work is hopefully will reflect in the numbers in the coming years with all the new
Yes.
changes or updates that you and your team are working on. I did want to switch gears a little bit because I also wanted to know about your company, because I wanted to know what inspired you to start your own company, the Global Communities Houston, and what the mission is.
Yes, I mean, and it really started from, that really, it was one of those, started as I have a great husband that is always encouraging me to, like, okay, Claudia, you can puede, si puede, you can do this. And I remember, when I opened Global Communities Houston, the point of of the company was to really connect resources, whether it was funding, whether it was connections to nonprofits, and just and make sure that people have the right information. I often found myself, as I mentioned earlier, is that sometimes we have learned so much throughout the journey of have made wonderful connections, and sometimes people are just waiting either for those connections to happen, or to know who to talk to whom, or like where can I find whether it's information on resources on who's doing what. And I think that's how the purpose of that was to connecting people to people through other resources and empowerment. And I think through the company, I have been able to also assist other organizations, whether it's on civic engagement programs in neighborhoods. Like, how do we start these programs? And also, currently, I also was helping with like leadership. How do we create a leadership pipeline in working with other nonprofits that were leading the work? And I was more also supporting in the sense of connecting them. That was something. So it's been different roles and of how, but I think the main purpose is like serving people. How do we connect and move it forward? I'm currently also and I don't think I have it in my bio, but as I'm sitting in this office, I'm also assisting and helping on the family business. We have it's called SSP Engineering, Engineering and Consulting, where I'm working with my husband in a team, and where we're trying to expand the engineering, world. And I'm new to this, even though I have a business degree, I have international business. I have always been more focused on the community nonprofits, at which that's my heart. But I'm also seeing as we took another leap of faith when both of us, left our full-time jobs to do this. I think that was also part of it, helping and see how I can assist into that family. So I'm also doing, I think I have a new title called Business Development Manager. So I don't know.
Wow.
So all I'm doing is like, hey, I'm not there, but I know I can see you. I can connect you to someone I know. So that's just to say, Sonia, just a little bit on the business side of global communities, how it started, but it also gave me here we go again, the leap of faith of kind of like, how do I, maybe I can help contribute on the family side too, on the business side, where my husband also took the leap of faith, and maybe I can help a little bit there. So is maybe how do I have some of this knowledge, or maybe some of this, and bringing it back to the other side, which I'm learning in the journey as well.
So that's great. I mean, it's the entrepreneur journey is not an easy journey, I know, but you make it, just sitting here talking to you and listening to your journey, you make it seem easy. I know it's not, but you make it seem like you just keep steamrolling, you keep going, and you didn't stop to wonder like the what ifs. You just, like you said, you took a leap of faith, and all these opportunities and all these doors and all these champions have been along your journey to help you. So I think that is such encouragement for others, maybe other Latinas that want to follow the similar, entrepreneurial journey that you have. What advice do you have, like, for a new generation of Latina leaders that may want to follow a similar path like yours?
I think one of the, if I can do all over again, I think I would have started a little bit younger, un poquito más joven, like getting into more of the volunteering, doing something. I think I've learned, and I think now I live that day by day. But if I could have started, when I was, whether it's in middle school or in high school, just starting to plug in, like just getting involved, starting to see what are the causes, what are the things that move you, what is it that you really, really want to do? Is it community? Is it just political world? Is it accounting? Is it business? Is it the medical field? Is it, and I think, plugging into, like, knowing what is it that makes you happy, and plugging into those areas of service. And you start, I really think that one door opens another door. I'm a firm believer of that. But you also have to put effort on your side. You have to research. You have to knock on doors. You have to see who's out there and getting up on a Saturday or Sunday volunteering or whatever. But I really think that these opportunities often happen where you also are able to network and connect to other people. I also think, so I think I think the encouragement that I say is not only just getting plugged in or volunteer in any capacity, whether it's in your neighborhood, in your civic club, whether it's doing something because it kind of brings you purpose, but also, another area besides volunteering is also knowing that often things come to you. And even if you don't know, if you think that you don't know, or you're a little bit nervous or scared, sometimes it's taking the leap of faith, doing it when even you don't know what that means. For example, I just talk about when I got this call, hey, do we want to serve as the district director of a congressional district? And I'm like, whoa, well, what is that? But I said, often we also don't give ourselves credit of what we've done, right? And I was like, oh, well, I've learned, I know immigration, I did this, I know government, and I know this art, and I know civic engagement. But then, I think what that means is not only taking the leap of faith, believing in yourself, and you can also, once you have the energy y las ganas de aprender, y vienen las ganas, I think you can accomplish anything. I think that's just doing that step, even if, and I always say this because often in every role that I have received, and I'm very fortunate and I'm very thankful, is that lo he hecho con nervios, pero con confianza de que sí se puede, that I believe in myself and that, I deserve to be part of that too, give myself a chance. So I hope that is a little bit uplifting or encouraging, but I think that something that I would recommend that I'm still continuing to live or continue to do is to leap on faith every time. And the other thing is, yeah, find your passion, but then it's also like, I don't know if we need to say this, but I was just going to say the energy, like make sure you funnel your energy through the right
That's
stuff.
important.
Maybe we don't have to say that. I hope
Okay.
that answers some
No,
of the questions.
yes, yes. It's so important, I think, because I think what I've heard a lot of lately, like in all the networking that we're doing with other women, other Latinas. I don't know about you, Sonia or Claudia, but have y'all heard imposter syndrome? It's like popping up everybody's talking about imposter syndrome. And it's like that, right? It's like when you don't really, basically when you don't believe in yourself, when you have self-doubt. And it's like what you're saying, take a leap of faith. Do it like, I've heard this before, do it afraid. If you're afraid, that's okay. Do it anyway. Do it afraid. So to me, like, that's encouraging, because I think even as women, like, we forget that. We need to be reminded, like, just do it. You can do it, even if you're nervous, even if you don't think you're qualified, because there's a statistic that says men will apply for almost any job, even if they only have like a part of the qualification. But women in general will not apply for a lot of the jobs if they're missing one little one little qualification. And it's like, it comes down to confidence. Do it anyway, apply anyway.
And that's so funny because I just heard that, Jacqueline, I was doing just an interview, and I think that, the imposter syndrome, I think it came up, something came up, and it's funny because I have heard that more often, but, I think what I remember receiving this feedback was that if you're here doing, if you're here, just whether it's in an interview, being recognized, whether you're at a table, like, you deserve to be there, right? Like, why not? And if you're here, even though sometimes we're trying to be bien humilde, bien calladita, we want to be just, and, it's not like we're, you're being arrogant or not, but at least like having that confidence, right? Like you said, Jacqueline, of just saying, you know what? I deserve to be here just like anybody else. And I think sometimes because inside you may know that you are a little bit nervous, you are a little bit like, que te da un poquito de miedito, right? And then you just kind of that, and I think maybe that's why, but I do think that's even today when I got the request, right, to do this interview with both of you, Jacqueline and Sonia, I had to say, I was like, oh, yo, nerviosa. I was honored when it comes to you, like they thought about me, and I'm like, oh no, and then my in your brain, and this is where you talk to yourself, literally, like, yes, I'll just speak from my heart, right? Like I'm just gonna do it, and I honestly came in here, just waiting, for the wonderful questions and see. However, I hope I've been able to answer, but I'm here standing in faith and, just doing the best I can. But I think that's what it is when you have an opportunity, like even of you thinking of, an interview. I was like, I'm honored, but I'm like, I need to do this for myself, right? Like, and I think that also builds your confidence. And I'm kind of like, you just made my day.
I think that's beautiful, and I think that's a wonderful way to start, like wrapping up our interview today, because it's been just a joy to talk to you and learn more about your journey and how you're helping people and how you're encouraging people to not only get out there and vote, but encouraging on them in their entrepreneurial journey, and then just as a woman to, like you said, like to just go for it, to just know your worth and know that you belong at the table as well.
I think another advice that I will recommend, and I think we often hear this, but it is very true, of finding, friends or mentors that believe in you, that are always behind you. And I think it's often hard to find them, but I think I will not be standing would be here or no estaría aquí if I didn't have people believing in me. Because sometimes you have other people standing in the gap and believing for you that sometimes you don't believe for yourself. Like you don't believe it, right? But you have those people that are a rock. So I have here in Houston wonderful, great people that have been there and supporting me, but also I do want to just take the moment to also thank, I think it takes a team, and I have a great husband and children that are, and family, like my mom, mis hermanos, like they were like babysitting, voluntold. Really, like it takes a team. Like, anytime I'm sitting here, is like there is a lot of people behind me that stood before me for me to do this crazy schedule, like pick up, no pick up, quien va, and doing all that stuff. So I think it's great to like, so I just want to take the moment to thank everyone that has really, just been there and then just supporting those efforts, because it's not just a solo person. It's really you bring a community or a team of family. I'm thankful for this opportunity. I really think that, as we go in this journey, I motivate everyone to just get involved in anything that you can, un granito de sal, like, I mean, even if un granito de arena, even though if that is like just doing what you can and participate. And sometimes, I think often we hear, bueno, yo no puedo votar, or I cannot vote, or I can't do this. There's other ways you can contribute. Perhaps if it means that you were going to go out there and help answer a phone call for a voter, or you can do take somebody to the polls, or if you can connect them to someone that may know the information. So I think there's different ways that we can do things and give back and be plugged in and feel like you're making a difference. But anyway, just very thankful for this opportunity, and hope that I continue to talk to both of you in the future.
Do you consider yourself a leader? This is called the Latina Leadership Podcast. Do you consider yourself a leader, and why?
That's a great question, Jacqueline. I think that often, we think, and especially, like my background or how I grew up, we want to be very humble. And I think that's something that I don't know if it's just instilled in you, or you just grow up like that. But, I often, like, oh, I don't call myself a leader. I mean, I call myself a Latina, but I don't call myself a leader, right? So it's kind of like you always kind of like trying to define that line of like, well, I don't want to be so arrogant, but you know what? I need to be confident too, right? Like it's like going into that little fine line. But I think that, often, right, I think a leader, right, we're always leaders, whether we are at home, whether it's in our families, whether it's in your community, whether it's in any role that you're serving. So, for example, right now, I was asked in another interview, like, well, do you consider yourself being a leader? But I think for me is really a leader. For me, I call myself a leader because I feel like I'm always doing something in leap of faith, even though if I'm a little scared, even if I don't believe in myself at the time, I'm doing something. And I think that anyone that does those things out of like, of faith, I think that, you are a leader just by even doing something that. So for me is, I also feel like I think as that role, the role that I have now, I always feel the need of bringing other people along the side, right? Trying to elevate other people. Like I think, sometimes people want to have just the leader title, right? But it's more of like, okay, so what are we doing for others? So then we're creating that pipeline of leaders, right? Like, or what does that mean? Like, I think it's often a kind of strange word, but I think when you are really trying to bring others and finding ways that they can grow, or finding ways where they can connect with other, whether it's leadership programs, whether it's awards, whether it's just giving them a shout out, like always trying to bring. I think that's what makes I think what makes a leader, when you really look up for others, and I think and help bring other people with you. That's what I think the word, do you consider yourself a leader, is hard, because you're like, all I want to do is help people, right? Like you don't want to think that of like yourself. But I really think that whoever is doing that of giving back to people, I think you are a leader in whatever space that you serve. I hope that
That's a-
answers the question.
great
Yes, I
answer.
like that. That's
Yeah, no, that's
perfect.
a great answer. I think that's great. Thank you so much, Claudia. You've given us so much to think about, and so many words of inspiration, I think, for other women and Latinas listening out there. Before we close out, I just want to say to everybody, please go out and vote. If you are registered, go and vote. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Make your voice heard, as Claudia said.
So thank you so much for being with us, Claudia, and sharing, imparting your words of wisdom with all of us and empowering the Latinas, of the world, and showing them que con ganas sí se puede, and you can accomplish all of your dreams and your goals. You're doing a wonderful job out there in the community, and we're so proud of you, and we're here supporting you. We'll be here supporting you long after, and I just want to I want to tell everybody that if you enjoyed this interview, please be sure to drop a comment below, like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends. And until next time, when we interview another amazing Latina, thank you for joining us and have a good day.
Bye.
What did you think of the conversation? If you enjoyed what you heard, let us know in the comments. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you for listening to the Latina Leadership Podcast, and we will see you next time.